Should be live. Everyone needs IM 45. We do have a record here. So once we figure it out, it should be live. Somebody check.
Yeah, we're live. Good to go?
Rebecca, copy the link and tweet it. Okay.
Got it.
Gabe, take the lead, Gabe.
Well, good. Rich's background noise is gone. All right, we live now?
Yep.
All right, hello, people. Welcome to the Let's Go Warriors draft party going live on YouTube. Rich, I think, is in the building in Barclays Center, which I imagine contributed to all the background noise going on his part. We've got a bunch of guests coming in today, and one of them is with us already. So we'll do just sort of quick intros, talk about ourselves a little bit, and then we'll jump into talking to Reed a little bit. So Rebecca, you want to start off?
Yeah. What am I doing? Introducing myself?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. You guys probably all know me at this point. I'm on here pretty much all the time. I go to NYU. I'm a sports management student. That's about it. Gabe, you want to go?
Yeah, Oakland resident, Warriors fan, teacher over here. Oh yeah, there's the scene in Barclays Center. Rich has got it. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to jump in here. People in the chat, just so you know, just ahead of time, I'm trying to not get spoiled and actually watch this live. So I'm going to ignore the chat because I don't want to see you guys tweeting, or commenting about whatever Waj has tweeted 5 minutes ago about whatever the pick was. So just letting you guys know up front.
All right, so I won't spoil anything.
Yeah, I would prefer that. It's more fun to have some tension here.
Well, I mean, do I need to spoil who's gonna go number one?
No, okay. That part we know. First few we know. Cool. Well, without any more ado, I just wanted to recognize our guest here. We got Mr. Reed.
OC.
I'm gonna OC. Sorry, I didn't want to butcher your last name, man. No, so NBA skills trainer, works with Andrew Wiggins, which is why he is here. Why don't you just give us a quick little bio and introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. I've had the opportunity, worked with Andrew a little bit last summer. I'm located in Minneapolis, and so obviously Andrew playing for the Timberwolves for a number of years. Still, his parents still live actually pretty close to where I live, and so he gets back here quite often in the off season. So worked with him a little bit last summer. Worked with him this summer before they went and had kind of their Olympic trials. Took a tough loss. Trying to qualify for the Olympics. But NBA skills coach. I work with a handful of pros, a lot of college players. I was a college basketball coach for 7 years. In the Midwest, spent some time in New York City, actually flying out there early tomorrow morning with my wife and my twin boys. And so it'll be good to be back out there, but that's just kind of my background. I've been in full-time player development for about the last 7-8 years now.
So it's official. Cade got drafted number one. Big shocker there.
Deep surprise.
I mean, obviously, you can't not like the pick. I mean, guy was the consensus number one, essentially.
Yeah.
I know Rockets fans are bummed that they didn't get the number one pick. I think as Warriors fans, we can't complain about how the draft lottery worked out. Minnesota didn't keep their pick.
Yeah, I think that we've talked about that. That was the priority. I mean, obviously there was chances we could get a higher one, but yeah, I'm just happy the pick conveyed and we can load up on rookies this year rather than putting that out one more year. Reed, anything about sort of like what Andrew's been working on lately? I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's like just general stuff that everybody works on kind of all the time, but is there anything specific that you guys have been focusing on?
When he was here, he hasn't been back for probably a month now, before he took off. But when he was here, it was a quick turnaround, not necessarily preparing in the off season like you generally would, just because it wasn't like, hey, we have 4 months to take time off. It was, hey, he took some time off to let his body rest up, since I don't know, I think he might have played every single game or only missed, maybe one game. And so, his body felt pretty good from what he said, but it was still, I mean, that's just a grind. And so he took some time off. So when we got back, it wasn't trying to, introduce anything new or anything like that. It was making sure that his lungs were in pretty good shape and that he was, fine tuning the things that he was going to be asked to do. Obviously playing in Minnesota, he was kind of a 1-2 guy with Cat, and then he goes to Golden State and kind of has a different role. And then when he goes and plays for Canada's national team, I think there was maybe a little bit of uncertainty what their roster was really going to look like in terms of scorers. Does he have to be a ball dominant scorer? Can he play kind of the way he plays in Golden State? Things like that. And so it was mainly just, hey, let's make sure he's comfortable. Let's make sure he sees the ball go through the rim a bunch of times. And so when he got to their training camp, he was ready to go.
And I guess looking forward to next year, he's going to have even a different role again with Golden State, because Klay is going to be back.
Yep.
So he's going to go from, I guess in some ways, I mean, the second scoring option next to Steph. I mean, because Draymond's not a typical scorer. So now he'll go to the third with Klay being there, which in some ways is going to have its good parts, because when you have Steph getting doubled, Klay on one wing, he's going to have open shots.
Yep.
And I think we already saw playing with Steph, he was generating open shots, meaning his percentages were up. So I guess the question is, what's the next step for him? Like, where's the next step that we're going to see, or that you would like to even see him grow in?
Well, I know that last summer before Klay's injury, Andrew and I, talked briefly, and he's like, he was excited. He is a type of player that I don't think he really minds playing alongside people. It's not like an ego thing, like I need to get mine. Obviously he wants touches and wants to do that, but like he wants to win. And so I know that he said, man, like, have the opportunity to be the third option. You got Steph Curry, who's one of the best players in the league, and you have Klay Thompson, who's, right there with him in terms of being able to shoot the basketball. There's going to be some lineups where he's going to pull the third best perimeter defender. But also what I think we talked about this the last time I was on with you guys, but if he plays in that starting unit, he plays as kind of the third option. When Steph takes a seat to get some rest, Klay doesn't step into that number one scoring option. Andrew does. And because Klay is a guy that's going to move off the ball, Klay is perfect as your number 2, number 3 scoring option. There's going to be nights that Andrew is going to be that number 1 or number 2 guy in that first group. But what I really like is that second unit, Andrew kind of spearheading that unit in terms of playing with some shooters, playing, some younger guys. And I'm not necessarily sure the makeup with free agency and stuff, but guys like Jordan Poole that shoot the ball really well, and having Wiggins play in space with some different shooters. That's where I'm really interested to see what direction they go tonight. Do they go with somebody with a ton of upside, or do they go with kind of maybe a sleeper pick in a guy like a Kispert from Gonzaga that's maybe just more of like, I mean, they had a ton of success with Draymond, getting a guy that's not highly touted out of college, but just plays a role. And it's like with Steph and Klay and Andrew and Draymond, can you just get a guy that seems pretty polished and can play his role? And that's what I'm really excited to see what they do tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the tension for sure that the fan base and everybody's thinking about is like, just how does this guy, there's 14 is going to have less pressure, but whoever 7 is, like, how do they fit? And do the tension that the fan base has been going on and on and about has been, do they swing for, if he's available, like Jonathan Kuminga, this like super big upside, but pretty raw type of player who's going to have a very limited role next year. Does he get enough minutes to even develop, but could be, 3-4 years down the line, this like elite player, or somebody like Giddey or Wagner who can like fit in a little more easily, but may never be as good. It's going to be super interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually interested to see what they do with the second pick. Is that 14 or 13?
Yeah,
whatever, 14. Looking at some of these mock drafts and going, okay, Mitchell from Baylor, like he's one of those guys that really reminds me of a point guard version of Draymond. Like, except he shoot the basketball, he can score, but like he does everything. I saw a stupid tweet the other day. Someone said, Draymond in the Olympics passed up kind of a layup. I don't know if you guys saw that, and kicked it out, led to a wide open 3. Someone tweeted, this guy's trash. I don't want to hear all this. He does all the little things. And I quote tweeted it, said, no, that's literally why he's on the roster. That's why he's here, is because he does that. And I think Mitchell is one of those guys that's like, man, he's a winner. I know you get Nico Mannion kind of at that backup point, a guy like that. But man, I just really, really like Mitchell in a spot like that. So I've been kind of looking at some of these mock drafts to see him slotted there. I'm like, I agree with that.
Yeah, it seems like him or Duarte are the most commonly linked at 14. Mm-hmm. And you can tell the theme there, right? Like they're obviously thinking that at 7, maybe that you take more of a risk, but at 14, the Warriors are going to try to get a guy, at least, if you believe the mocks, that is much more ready to contribute, like Mitchell or Duarte, both being older and more polished prospects.
Yeah. I think too, like looking at what they did last year, playing with Wiggins and Oubre and trying to be long and athletic, I think that roster was kind of put together with the thought that obviously Klay was going to be around. Yeah. And so it kind of changes from, okay, this is how we had it set up rotationally, to we have to kind of play some roster. We have to play some lineups that maybe aren't the greatest fit, because Andrew can shoot it, but he wants to play a little in the mid post and kind of get to the mid range and do that. Oubre was kind of the same way. And, I really kind of thought that, you have a shooter in there, then you can maybe Oubre can spell Wiggins and do some of that stuff rather than playing together all the time. That's why I think it's going to be interesting with Klay back. Do you go with a guy like Kuminga that can maybe be right behind Andrew, doesn't have to play a ton, but can still get some minutes in potentially a role like that?
Yeah, I think that's something that, we've talked about that a bunch on our previous lives, but was so frustrating about some of the discourse last year from Warriors fans who were frustrated about the roster construction, that just, as you said, like so much of it was predicated on Klay being there, and any team that loses like their second best scorer is going to have a lot of tricky things to figure out.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't plan for something like that. You plan as if everybody's there, and if stuff hits the fan, you got to adjust. And I as I just look through the mock draft and I look at the Warriors roster, I just really like their roster heading into the draft. The way it is, like if you get them to play well together, it looks solid.
Getting the live feed. That's good, actually, Rich. Get the live piped in. So we've been just talking for people who are watching and actually want us to like announce the picks. Jalen Green went second to Houston. And as you just heard, Evan Mobley went third to Cleveland, all pretty much as everyone has expected for a pretty long time. Pick 6 is going to be really where stuff gets interesting. So we assume the first 5 are going to be kind of, what's been predicted. And that pick 6 is going to impact the Warriors a ton for you Warriors fans out there, because it looks like OKC is kind of the hinge point of this. They've been mocked a lot to take book night. I saw right before the draft started that Jonathan Givony changed that prediction and changed OKC to taking Kuminga. And that bumped book night to the Warriors. So that'll be super interesting too, to see exactly what goes down there. Rich, we've got all the background now, if you mind muting yourself. Rebecca, you can mute him.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, sorry.
Here's the question I had for you, Reed, just based on your background. Have you ever worked with a prospect like leading up to the draft, like with a guy out of college who's like working his way over that summer?
No, I've worked with, I got a chance before doing, a lot of the pre-draft stuff is going to happen, in California or Miami or New York City, Chicago, places like that. So Minneapolis isn't necessarily a hotbed. I had a chance to work with Daniel Oturu last year. He was a second-round draft pick with the Clippers now. He's from Minneapolis, played at the University of Minnesota. So I got to work with him. There's a handful of guys, that I have spent some time with, not as like their full-time. Amir Coffey actually is also with the Clippers. Worked with him a couple times before, he took off when trying to figure out, is he going to stay in the draft? Is he going to come back? But work with some agents that are trying to do some of that stuff and get it moved, just because Minneapolis is a market that, number one, is maybe a little bit less expensive for agencies to host stuff like that. There might be a little bit less trouble that some of those kids can get into when they're kind of doing stick them in the suburbs in Minneapolis and do that. But also, it's really tough for some of these agencies in the recruitment process of players when, people are saying, hey, where are you doing your pre-draft stuff? Minneapolis isn't necessarily that sexy of a market when you can go into the Miami, or you can go out to LA or do different things like that. So kind of got some lower level guys. I actually work with some agencies to work with players, like if they come to town, to work with the Timberwolves to do a workout, maybe if they're in a day or two before, just come in and fine tune some stuff and get shots. But that's kind of the gist of it.
Nice.
Now, one thing I did want to mention is I think everybody was tracking it, but the Russell Westbrook trade is official. So Westbrook to the Lakers, plus a 2024 second round pick and a 2028 second round pick for Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Montrezl Harrell, and number 22 tonight. Am I the only one that doesn't think this is a good trade?
No, I think, for who, I guess, is the question.
For the Lakers.
Yeah, no, it's not. I think
they have no spacing unless they pick up some guys for cheap, like veterans, because it's not like they have a ton of cap space. They have no one on the outside to shoot. I mean, they already didn't have very many shooters. Now they have even fewer. I mean, you can literally leave Braun. I mean, yes, they can hit sometimes, but they're so inconsistent that you could literally, it's going to be Brick City.
I mean, I think the Warriors last year is a good illustration of this, where it's like when you have guys who can kind of shoot, but aren't guarded like they're shooters, like that's as big a problem as if you have guys who literally can't shoot. So like AD and Braun, like they can make shots, like obviously, like from three, obviously. But nobody's guarding them the way you guard Klay or Steph. Like you're not like screaming around screens to like make sure you stick with them, and you're not like getting that kind of spacing when they're there. You don't want Braun just taking open shots all day, but it's not the same. And now they have no one who's going to generate that kind of spacing. Oh, okay, first wrinkle. Scotty Barnes 4. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. So Suggs drops there from the expected spot. Does
Minnesota
Suggs
boy.
drop a few more spots.
Yeah, no, he's not getting all the way to 7. I can guarantee that. But that makes it very interesting at 5. Does Orlando just take him? They just took a point guard last year, but
Yeah, I don't know. That's a wrinkle. That's a wrinkle because with Cole Anthony there, that wouldn't make a ton of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, take Suggs if you think he's better, but OKC, Suggs isn't getting past OKC. They'd take him at 6 if he slips further for sure. I think the Magic should just take him anyways, just like best player and make it work. If Cole Anthony is just your backup, then he's just.
Well, who would be the other they'd take?
I mean, it would be Bouknight or Kuminga or whoever the other guys are, right?
Yeah.
Barnes on Toronto is interesting. We still don't really know what they're doing. They have a lot of like stuff in flux, but they love dudes who are multi-positional and play defense. And I mean, OG Anunoby, Barnes, and Siakam, if they keep them, is like a pretty interesting front line. But they also are facing the shooting issue if they don't. I don't know what they're doing at their second guard spot if they don't keep Lowry. So we'll see.
Indiana sending 54 and 60 and 2 future seconds to Milwaukee for 31.
Okay.
Nothing.
That's a big old cost cut move from Milwaukee, it sounds like. Just don't want that first round pick salary.
Well, no, 31.
Oh, no, you're right. That's the second round. Never mind. Well, then I don't know.
You're thinking football. 32.
Yeah, I guess Barnes could be interesting on that team. I mean, it works because they already have some established stars. Like, I would worry about Barnes being slotted in as a star role because he's just not that kind of scorer. But around guys like Siakam and Van Vliet and Anunoby, like, I could see that being a good spot for him.
Well, their comparison that they're showing now on TV is Draymond.
Yeah, that's been the general idea, which like it's always annoying to have guys getting compared to sort of unique people like Draymond because it's like, well, that percentile of genius like IQ is really hard to hit. But I think in play style, I get it. He does a lot of the same stuff.
I don't think Suggs is gonna fall.
I was going to say with the Draymond stuff, because Draymond is so unique, I think it's very easy to go, who does he remind me of? Oh, that guy, because he's the one guy that you think of.
When you talk about versatility, I mean, Draymond, that's one thing I am really excited to see with the Warriors next season is, I mean, obviously we know Klay coming back from injury. He's probably not going to have the same lateral movement. Shooting is something that you can do that, I mean, you don't need to have that for. But defense, I mean, that's somewhere he might, in the beginning, kind of be a little rusty. And we don't know if he's going to be the same defender. But if he's even close to where he was, add in Wiggins, Draymond, and if Wiseman can somehow develop as a good rim protector, or even Looney, who's able to switch well, that's going to be a top defense right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I still can't believe Wiggins didn't make an all-defensive team. I mean, I guess I can because Klay never makes it either. And, they don't know how to vote correctly.
And hey, Reed, let us know whenever you need to leave because we're in this for the long haul. So
no, you're good. I got a couple more minutes left. I got.
All right.
We're first flight tomorrow morning, so we got to make sure with 5-month-old twins that we know what we're doing.
Well, while we got you, any stuff about the development side of things that the average fan wouldn't know? Like what sort of things go down in those sessions? Do players come to you with like specific plans, or are they more just kind of like, hey, what do you want for me, or how does it work?
It depends. It's a little different player to player. Some of the time I'll have agents that say, hey, this is some of the feedback that we're getting from organizations. This is something, if they're under contract, this is something we'd like to see a little bit more of, like to see some improvement on, different things like that. Sometimes I'll have players come to me and say, hey, this is something I really feel like I need to get better at. And a lot of times, even a guy like Andrew is so, I would say he's a trusting person, and my connection was kind of through his, through his longtime girlfriend's dad. And so there was a level of trust built up there to begin with, I think. And so he's a type of guy where I ask him and he's like, listen, I my game. Let's get shots and actions that I'm going to utilize. And so, it's kind of, with the pro players, it's like an ongoing dialogue. We might be getting to something that, he might say something that sparks something. Hey, this is something we really want to dig into, and we go from there. But otherwise, we're just, you watch a guy like Andrew, and it's pretty easy to figure out the spots that he wants to get to and the things that he wants to do. And then we have conversations about that as well. And you kind of get to just kind of mix it up, keep things fresh every day, but getting reps that he's going to see on the floor.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And you know what, in large part, like these guys, they have an identity, like they know who they are.
The 2021 NBA draft, your Orlando Magic select Jalen.
Yeah. Okay. Not surprising. Magic are probably stoked that he fell in their lap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, he's a Minnesota boy. Been successful watching him play at the varsity level since 8th grade. And he actually high school teammates with Chet Holmgren, #1 player in the country.
Oh, yeah.
At Gonzaga now, who's going to be in the league in a year. And I think we'll be talking about, to watch Jalen and Chet play together, pretty crazy. So excited for Jalen.
Yeah, I think he'll be. Oh, yeah. Orlando's, they've got this kind of morass of a bunch of guys that they don't really know. They don't know who to keep and who not to keep. So I think smart pick, just take the obvious guy who's the best option available and figure your roster out later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you're not sold on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Take multiple guys at a position, and someone, you decide that you want to go in a different direction. They're still young enough that there's trade value there. They can hopefully flip for something that you really like. I think it's really interesting too. And this is something in talking to, did not come from Andrew, but some of the other guys that I've worked with, you ask people, what percentage of NBA general managers really have a great grasp on what they're doing. And I think we'd be surprised by the answers. You look at some of the roster moves that some of these teams have made, and it's like, it's almost like you're looking at NBA 2K in terms of, let's get the 5 highest ranked players. I really look at what Philly did a couple of years ago. You have a guy like Ben Simmons, who's a non-shooter as a point guard, and you have an old school back to the basket kind of paint clogger in Joel Embiid. The first thing you say is, we need shooters. And what did they do? They let JJ Redick walk, and they gave Al Horford $90 million. And you're kind of like, what are you? Now, I know they tried to bring in some shooters, but it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
That's no knock on Al Horford, but just from a roster makeup, it's like, this does not make sense. And you start looking around, and some of these moves that are being made, it's just kind of like, who made the decision on that one?
For sure. Yeah, I think that that gets back to that Lakers Westbrook trade too. Like, I don't know exactly how much flexibility the Lakers were going to be able to have to pull off anything better than that. And I'm sure they trust that, like, you just get talent and they'll figure it out. But that screams to me of a similar problem of, like, you already had some spacing issues on that team, and you throw all your assets at a very expensive Russell Westbrook, who is just going to gum that up even more.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think the part that people miss out on, and this is like the not talked about aspect, but like a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. I ask people, say, hey, what are the Timberwolves trying to do? They're like win an NBA title. Like, no, they're not. They're trying to make money. Like their roster right now is kind of like, okay, they got some pieces, but they don't like. I've lived in Minnesota almost my whole life, other than a couple stints out east. But it's crazy. Like this is a business for these owners, and just the brand recognition that the Lakers got today by pulling a name Russell Westbrook and jersey sales and ticket sales and driving that up. Obviously, the Lakers are a championship caliber team, but you better believe that they're trying to make a ton of money, and pulling names like Russell Westbrook, even if it isn't the greatest basketball move, the Los Angeles Lakers got richer today.
That's certainly true.
I think a year and a half ago, the Timberwolves set a record at the trade deadline. They moved like 9 guys. I mean, it was like Layman stayed, Towns stayed, and then it was like, who are all these new guys? And they were equally as bad. But it was like, oh, do you know how many tickets they sold? Let's go watch these new guys. Oh, never mind. We still stink. But they sold tickets and people were excited.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. While we have you two, just since we're coming up on like the real big hinge point of the draft here, which is this OKC pick, and we know Kuminga's in the mix at either 6 or 7 or even further if we pass on him. As a guy who like pretty obviously needs a lot of development, I mean, not to put you on the spot of how much you scouted Kuminga or whatever, but like, what would you go about doing if you were sort of like in charge of his development, a guy who comes in that raw, but like oozing talent?
Well, number one, I think he was working with Alex Bizzell, and Alex does like a phenomenal job. He has a great reputation working with players. So I think based on kind of the last time we've seen Kuminga until we see him like playing the summer league game, I think you're going to see a big jump just because I think Alex does a great job. But for guys like that, they're generally longer, bigger, bigger, faster, stronger, whatever it is. They rely on their athleticism. I would really break it down and spend a ton of time on their feet, footwork, foot control, getting them to play slow. And that's really, I think, you look at a guy like Wiggins too at a young age. I mean, he could outrun people, he could outjump people, and then really got to spend some time like developing and honing in on his craft. And hey, look at a guy like Kobe. What was super impressive about Kobe, and another guy that I mentioned too is Vince Carter, is guys that are just super athletic. And as they got to the end of their career, they got ahead of it. It wasn't, oh shoot, I've lost that step. It was, hey, I need to become more skilled so that when I do lose that, I can create out of this. And what I think is really cool is that like Andrew has a lot of that. And I would really look at a guy like Kuminga and say, do you have the ability to get control of your feet and really play with pace and tempo and not always rely on being an athlete? Andrew has this quote that he said last summer. He's like, basketball is really simple. Just get to your spots. And if you don't have space, fade. He understands that. And that's what I do with a guy like Kuminga.
Oh, here we go.
You covered the mic.
We didn't get sound, Rich. We're going to have to wait on delay here.
If that helps.
What was it? Oh, well, I'll just wait on delay on my TV screen here, I guess.
Rich covered the mic.
Yeah. All right. Well, he had a big reaction. Now I'm just like antsy waiting to see what's happening here. Let's see it live on our ends now. I'm excited to have feelings about something.
I wonder if they went Kuminga.
Yeah, Kuminga, book night, or some total out of left field. OKC has a lot of
I think there's a bigger
mystery.
surprise than that.
Okay, we got something super interesting then.
How have you guys not reached it yet?
Wow, Giddy.
They went with Giddy.
Wow. That is a huge difference.
They had him. I'm on ESPN. They had him. They have Kuminga as the best available, and they had Giddy as the best fit. And for the Warriors listed, they have Mitchell here as the best fit. And that's exactly what I said earlier. But the thing is some of these mocks think that Mitchell's going to be there at 14. I don't think he's going to fall that far.
Yeah, I don't know. Wow. Okay. Well, this changes everything. So suddenly the Warriors are staring at Bouknight, Kuminga, Wagner, all available at 7.
Yeah.
And this becomes the real question now. So Bouknight had been slotted at 6 most of the draft cycle recently after the sort of Kuminga tumble. The Warriors have worked out all of these guys, or at least gotten sessions with all of them. I don't know. Wow. That's a real shocker. So now we have Bouknight, the obvious sort of microwave scorer type. We got Kuminga, raw wing talent, Kawhi upside type. And then we've got Wagner, the more sort of steady fit, jack of all trades guy. Wow. What are we all feeling going in? I know Rebecca's spoiling herself, so she's chuckling.
No, I'm just not even sure. I mean, we're already getting a lot of surprises.
Yeah. 4 minutes on the clock. What do you guys want? Who do you want here with everyone available that we thought wasn't going to necessarily be there?
I don't know.
I think it's interesting because, I love Mitchell. Now, maybe that's a reach. ESPN has him as the second best available. If you go there, like backup point guard, then you're looking at 14, Kispert, Jalen Johnson, Moses Moody, Trey Murphy, Duarte. I mean, you can, if you really want to go, maybe, you're saying Kuminga can be that slasher, that athlete. But then, I don't know, Mitchell. I really think Mitchell's one of those guys that can play right away in a backup role. I think last year, like Nico was like super talented, but wasn't quite ready to like step in that role. I think Mitchell's one of those guys that can do that. I still think Nico's going to be a really nice NBA player, but it depends on what they want to do. I think you have to get somebody that can help you. And if you go Kuminga here, it's going to take him a little bit. You're going to have to, because if you go Kuminga and then at 14, you have like a Jalen Johnson, then you got 2 guys that are not really ready.
Yeah, I don't see any way they take 2 projects.
No, yeah.
But they might take a swing at 7 and then go with somebody more steady at 14.
I don't know. I like them to maybe. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah. I know. I bet the conversation is pretty heated right now. I'm sure they didn't think that Bouknight would be available, and I really don't have a grasp on how they feel about Bouknight. It's been kind of unclear. I think in a perfect world, they would have probably liked Kuminga to have already been taken, so they could have just gone with somebody they felt more confident about. But the temptation, even just as a trade chip, like has got to be in that room. Like they've got to be going through that.
I had one notification that's saying that they are discussing trades with the number 7 pick.
I'm sure, because once Kuminga and Bouknight are both available, they know guys are interested in those players. If the Warriors are not that high on either of them, you might. I know Memphis has been active in trying to move up from 10. Maybe you take that, slide back a couple spots, feel like you can still probably get one of the guys that's really high on your board. I don't know. Depends on what the offer is, right?
Well, says the pick is in, so I guess we're keeping it.
Oh gosh. Well, at least for now. I mean, trades obviously are all sort of simultaneously happening as well as picks are happening.
That's
so who
true.
knows? All right. Well, I think you're like 30 seconds ahead of me, Rebecca. So do me the honors of waiting.
I will wait. Meanwhile, did you see that trolley car like animation ESPN had a minute ago?
Oh no, I looked away
because I was really offended by that. It said like 0 playoff appearances since 2019 and had the trolley car going straight down. I'm
Okay,
like,
that's
it's
2
been
years
2
ago. We were
since
in the
Dallas making the
finals.
playoffs. Are you kidding me?
That's an absurd way to frame the Warriors' recent history.
And they were like, Klay has missed this many games, Steph's missed this many games. That doesn't mean we're going like that.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Oh,
You
God.
can't have
What are
watched
we
last
gonna
season
do?
and be like, a healthy Klay wouldn't have made that a much more scary team. All right, the pick is in on my end. Let's see. Oh, man.
All right. Dun, dun, dun.
Did you see who it is?
Not yet. Jalen Rose is still talking on my screen. Everybody wait, guys, wait.
I'm waiting. I know, but
My feed must be much behind you guys. All right, Adam Silver's coming up.
In 2021 NBA draft, the Golden State Warriors select Jonathan Kuminga.
no surprise there.
All right,
Yep.
so Kuminga's the pick for anyone who's somehow more delayed than I am. Wow. Weird way we got here, but I'm not shocked. It's kind of, I expected them to not be able to really pass on Kuminga if he was there.
Yeah.
Reed, that's you checking your clock. You need to get out of here.
No, yeah, I probably should. I like the pick. I really am interested to see what they do with this next pick. You know, looking at kind of best available. ESPN's got Mitchell, Bouknight, Wagner. I mean, they're going down and you're like, okay, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, you know, they got Kispert going. I just like Kispert. Man, it's kind of, I know he's kind of a 2-3, but it's saying, you know, you need a point guard. We're going to need a wing. You need a big. I don't know. I think it'd be nice to have somebody else that can play right away. I don't know. The more I talk myself into that, I might talk myself out of that and see. I like Mitchell, but he's not going to fall there. So, yeah, be interesting to see what happens, guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming and hanging out with us.
Joining us.
Yep. Nope. Happy to do it. Let me know if I can help in any way.
Enjoy your trip, right?
Yep. Maybe I'll see Rich in passing while I'm out there.
I was gonna say I'm getting ready to go back to school in New York, and I am excited.
Yep.
I'm so excited. I miss it.
All right, guys. Well, good luck tonight.
Thank you for being with us.
All right. We'll see you.
All right.
So no big surprise there.
Folks in the chat, we have a few more guests coming up just to tease you. We've got, I think, Draymond's trainer, Travis Walton, is coming up later. It sounded like the rest might be in flux. We might have Klay's trainer coming in later. And then we'll just we'll filter in some people as we go. But at least Rebecca and I will stay and talk about this. Yeah, what are we thinking about Kuminga?
I mean, I like the pick. I do like the fact that, you know, he played in the G League, which, yes, they didn't get a super long season and all of that. However, he did get to play with guys that are typically a little bit older than the typical like college player. I don't think it's quite the same as, you know, being an international player and all of that, because I feel like those guys do really come in well ahead. But I mean, I like the pick. I understand them drafting a raw prospect like this. We did bring in more developmental coaches this offseason. So I think between Kuminga and Wiseman, they're going to have their work cut out for them. You know, there's all these things about like the Warriors' older players pressuring them to like get more veterans and to trade and stuff. And I don't know how much of that is true. I feel like if you have these young players, as long as you bring in some other veterans, you know, in free agency, then you've got a chance. I mean, there's talks that Kevin Love might do a buyout and be available. of course, I mean, it just really depends. There's rumors that they might try and trade DeAndre Jordan. So there's all of these different things around the league. And like, I think as long as you bring in other veterans, these young guys can really help this team. And I feel like as long as we have our main core healthy, we are still one of the top teams in the league. They seem to forget about us just because we've had 2 off years.
Yeah, I think Kuminga, it's going to be a real inflection point. Like, it's a real thing for the Warriors staff now. They need to really prove this, that they can take young guys and develop them. And I know that, like we've said, they've made some offseason hires with that in mind. And it looks like Wagner's going to the Magic now. So the Magic end up with Suggs and Wagner. That's like pretty good. I'd be really happy as the Magic with those 2 guys. They both really know how to play basketball at a high level, just like team stuff on both ends. But thinking about Kuminga, I mean, I think Warriors fans need to think about this as not something that will matter next year. I mean, but there's a bunch of things there's just a lot to consider with Kuminga because we've never had a G League Ignite exist before. Right. So there's a ton of questions about how to evaluate these guys, Jalen Green and Kuminga being obviously the primary people who went through that program, but Isaiah Todd who get drafted later tonight and maybe Daishen Nix as well. And it's really unclear when we're talking about 3-point range, for instance, like that's an NBA 3-point shot, whereas the college players are shooting shorter shots. So how do you translate the fact that Kuminga, as the youngest player in the G League, was shooting at an NBA 3-point level the whole time? How do you translate free throw percentage when in the G League they only shot 1 free throw that counted for 2 points? Like they didn't even shoot 2 free throws when they got fouled. So he has way fewer attempts than anybody who would normally get fouled as much as he does. So there's like shooting percentages stuff is really a big question because obviously the rep on him is he was a really inefficient scorer, which is true. But as far as what that means for his NBA development, it's unclear. And the miserable part of the Warriors fandom that likes to moan and whine about everything is going to talk about how we picked another guy with no feel who's just an athletic. I'm sure they are. Already are going to whine about this.
There's one guy already in here. Kuminga can't shoot at all. I hate our pick.
Right.
And first off, we don't know.
Kuminga's wing Wiseman.
Yes, he's in Warriors colors, and yes, it appears that he's going to be on the team. However, you never know what's going to happen throughout the night or, as things are going. Players get traded on draft night. That is a thing.
It's also worth
someone is saying Warriors front office is trash.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's amazing how much feeling people can have when they've this player hasn't played a game in the NBA yet. I think, like everything's true about Kuminga. He did have a really raw looking first season in the G League. That first game he played against Santa Cruz, people were talking about him as maybe the number 1 pick. And then the rest of the season was a lot tougher for him. But there's also a reason why he's been a top 5 ranked prospect the entire year. Like those tantalizing things still exist. He's still like the size of a Kawhi Leonard. He still has a knack for scoring the ball in one-on-one situations. He's actually a very underrated passer. I watched all those G League games and I thought that he looked pretty like he gets underrated, I think, for his like level of understanding the game. He's also the youngest player in the top like 40 prospects here. He is a full calendar year younger than Cade Cunningham, who was a freshman, because he reclassified. So when we're talking about what does it mean for an 18-year-old to play in an adult league and struggle versus playing in a college league and much worse competition, I don't know. If Kuminga played in the NCAA, would he have been a top 3 pick? Like it's not clear. So I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic, but it really is going to be a focal point that the Warriors developmental staff need to really like show up, because they now have two guys with Wiseman and Kuminga who have crazy amounts of upside.
This next pick is an interesting one
Yeah.
with the Kings at 9, because if you look at it, technically the Kings have 2 guards.
Yeah, they still have healed after the rope-a-dope with the Lakers.
So do they go
and
for
3
a guy
guards
like Bouknight or Mitchell? You know? I mean,
yeah, Bouknight sliding is weird for them because they have 3. I mean, they have Halliburton too, right? Halliburton, Heald, and Fox. If you throw another guard in there, did they go big and go with Şengün? Is that too early for him? They have long been mocked for Wagner, but he's gone by now. Yeah, I don't know. Meanwhile, Bouknight continues his slide.
meanwhile, who's next pick? Who's 10? Memphis?
Memphis.
Sounded like
that.
Mitchell. I think Mitchell.
That would be kind of a hilarious Kings pick in a negative way.
Isn't that how the Kings work?
Exactly.
Rich, could you put us back in grid view, gallery view? Well, they did it. Jeffrey!
Hello.
Hello.
I'm here.
Welcome.
Davion Mitchell going to Sacramento. So now, let's see, it's Memphis right up next.
Wow, Bouknight keeps sliding. So who's left thinking about 14? Guys that have gone already. So guys that the Warriors might be high on beyond the like Duarte option down there. Moody, Bouknight still on the board.
Yeah, and I mean, next you have Memphis, who has some pretty solid guards already. I mean, of course, you have John Morant. They have Dylan Brooks, who, as annoying and terrible as hair is an annoyingly good defender and had a great second year, sorry. So I don't know what Memphis does with this next pick. I mean, you have Jaren Jackson. They traded Valanciunas, so it's a little bit of a it's a little bit of a just like I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I think it says New Orleans, that confused me on the board, but they just haven't done the trade swap thing. If I'm Memphis, I'm probably going Moody. I think they could always use more wing shooting. Because, like Bouknight seems kind of redundant to them, but maybe they like Bouknight more than Brooks. I don't know.
This is getting interesting now.
Yeah.
Yeah, since the Raptors pick was different, everyone's been thrown off a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Giddey to OKC was the real shocker. There was nobody who had that.
Right. I could hear people screaming like in celebration because,
Although,
Australia.
to be honest,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
almost nowhere had Suggs falling.
No. Yeah, they've missed a few.
One mock draft that had him at 5, but then they had Scotty Barnes at 3. So it was like a weird one. So, and obviously that was wrong.
Yeah, man, this Sacramento pick is very weird to me. They've done a good job with their draft the last few years, so I feel like we can't rag on them too hard. Like the Halliburton pick was obviously a good one, but Yeah, somebody's got to be on the move here. Like, I know they were trying to move Heald. There's no way they can have Fox, Heald, Halliburton, and Mitchell like all in their backcourt. That's crazy.
That's really a little bit confusing. Also,
Heald,
Grizzlies brought in Eric Bledsoe, so there's another guard.
yeah, but I think
And I
they're
guess they have
buying him
Steven
out or
Adams.
trading him.
Who's their 3?
Kyle Anderson.
Slow
That's what I'm
mo.
saying.
Slow-mo.
I think Moody or somebody who might be able to slot in there is a better option.
I was gonna say they might be best off going with a 3 because if they have Steven Adams, which why? I mean, you go. What is it? Morant, Brooks, whoever you get, a small forward, can go. Jaren Jackson and then Steven Adams.
Yeah, I think Moody or one of those three. I mean, he's the highest rated guy left who fits that kind of profile. Unless they just take a weird big swing at like Alfred and Şengün or something. Which I could see them doing. Şengün's like an analytics darling, and Memphis has been kind of that sort of thing.
Getting even more interesting.
I'm excited for Gay's reaction.
Oh, Charlie Torres is here. Everybody ready?
Did they go early? Oh no, the pick is in now. Gotta wait on too late here. Take a eating break for a second.
What's up? Happy draft night.
Yeah, how's it going? Sorry, I can hear you guys now.
It's already a wild
Zaire
draft night.
Williams. That means somebody's falling to us who we didn't think was falling to us, because Zaire was not supposed to go that high.
Charlie, I gotta say, I feel like this year's draft night is already feeling a little better than last year's.
I would say that.
So for anyone that doesn't know, we're joined by Charlie Torres. Torres?
Yeah, Torres is fine. Yeah.
Klay's trainer. Which I mean we've all seen off-season Klay. I mean, he's become Captain Klay at this point. Just everything. So, I don't know what you can say about. Well, first off, have you been kind of following the draft and everything?
I'm trying to pick up right now, so I just pulled up Woj's.
So Warriors got Kuminga at 7.
Yep.
And the other kind of big one was really Moody went off early, I think. And then Book Night is still falling.
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought Book Night was gonna stay high.
And then now you have Charlotte next, who technically has some pretty good guards already to themselves. So, what thoughts on the Kuminga pick?
I like Kuminga. Like everyone I've known that's been around Kuminga is pretty good. So, I mean, I like him. Rangy. Whoa. So, man, I'm kind of curious what is Cleveland going to keep Evan and Jared Allen together?
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know. Maybe they think Mobley's a 4, but that's weird.
I mean, he's going to be more of a 4 early, but I don't know. I feel like Jared Allen, they can use him to get a lot of stuff they need over there.
Yeah, I agree. I would play Mobley at 5 and just get picks or something for Allen.
For sure. Wagner at 8. What? Sheesh, this is crazy.
Let's see. One question is: has Klay kind of mentioned anyone in the draft to you?
Not really. We talked about it a little bit today, but no one really. Yeah, nothing. He's just really just focusing on getting healthy and getting well. He looked really good today. So,
I mean, I think that's the best news you can give Warriors fans right now.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter who we
Yeah.
draft, I think the best news would be hearing that Klay is looking good because, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard not to love a guy like Klay. So I think even the whole NBA is ready to see him back on the court. And
100%.
I can only imagine where he's at this point. I'm sure he is more than ready to be back on the court.
Yeah, he's definitely fiending. He wants his competition bug is at a high level right now. He wants to compete, so it was good.
Now, one thing I don't know how much you can say on this, that like kind of one of the concerns with injury is kind of how one's lateral movement can be affected. So I think one thing people are a little bit unsure of is, I mean, obviously we know he'll still be able to shoot. There's no question in that. But how his defense might be affected.
Yeah, I
Are
think
you able to
that's
speak to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing anything live, so but I will say this, he looks like he's moving really well. He shot it really well. He's handled it really well. So, I mean, everything else is just going to be like a very slow ramped kind of pace, you know. I don't think he's in no rush. I mean, I don't think any of the Warrior staff that's been in this week, I don't think anybody's said, "Hey, we need you by a certain timetable." Like everyone's kind of on the same page. They all just want him to be 100% confident, you know, have, you know, not even thinking about an injury, that kind of stuff. So, but you know, he's kind of been there before, and he was, you know, up until he had his most recent injury. I mean, he didn't really skip a beat once he really locked in and started working. I mean, he was working his butt off up until the Achilles. So, and he looked, I mean, with the NBA guys that were around in the gym when, like, he looked like ahead of where a lot of those guys were. So it's good news. Yeah. I just, it's going to take some time for him to be the defender and be that kind of lockdown guy. Like, I don't think that's even anything he's worried about right now. It's just kind of like being healthy and seeing what he's capable of. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm ready to see him and Steph on the court together again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what Steph was able to do last year with, I don't want to say no spacing.
Yeah.
A small amount.
Yes, a small amount of safe spacing. So add in the fact, you know, you're going to have Klay on the wing now. One, it just helps with spacing and everything. Because, I mean, as lethal as a shooter as Steph is, Klay is equally as lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, when Klay gets hot, there's nothing quite like it on earth.
No, it's crazy. It's a crazy thing.
I mean, I mean, I know I'm not the only one. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Yeah. I think everyone's kind of just counting the days, you know?
Yeah. It's like the Charlotte pick's about to be in, huh?
Yeah.
Is Scotty Barnes still on the board?
Nah, he went fourth
to
Toronto.
Oh yeah, okay. Raptors.
Yeah,
that was kind of the first. Yeah, that was the first wrench.
2021 NBA draft. The Charlotte Hornets select James Bouknight.
Okay.
Bouknight.
That ends Bouknight's slide. I mean, he's got to be stoked. He and Momelo get to pair up, and that might actually be really fun for him.
That'll be a good pairing.
Feels like a slide for him, but you know, I think it might be a better opportunity to be on a better team. OKC would have been like 4 years away from anything that mattered.
I mean, and even if he's at this point slid, that just means there's other guys that are still here at this point for us.
Yeah, this is getting really
on the board.
Really
I
interesting.
mean, 2 other picks ahead of us at this point. Because that was what, 11? So I think 12, 13.
12, 13. other high-rated guys that are on the board. I mean, my dream, I was hoping the Warriors might take Moody at 7. If we could get him at 14, I would be like losing my mind. But other guys, Şengün, Duarte, Kai Jones, Keon Johnson, Jalen Johnson, like these guys are all in the mix over the next couple picks. One of those guys will obviously be available to us. We'll see.
Let me tell you that Şengün is nice.
Yeah, that's a good transition. We're gonna ask. Have you seen any of these guys? Have you had the chance to either? Yeah.
So I work with a couple Turkish kids. Actually, I got my Turkish Basketball Federation flag there.
Nice.
And one of the kids he played at Arizona this year, but I'm really close with him, and he was on the U19s with Şengün and or Alpern, and man, like I remember the first time watching them play, I was like, who the heck is this fat kid? He's amazing. Like a baby Jokic. And then this year he lost all this weight. I mean, he cleaned up his body, and I mean, the Turkish league is a big time league. I mean, they got guys all the time that are coming in and out. Like Perry Jones is in that league, Nick Johnson. I mean, they got guys over there, Derek Williams. Like, so for him to do what he did, I think he got Turkish league MVP
he did
as a 19-year-old, and that's a serious league. So, I mean, I loved him. Even when he was fat, I thought he was like the most intriguing guy that I'd seen. And they have another fat guy over there, and they have the other Nigerian-born Turkish kid that was up at Prolific Prep. They got like 3-4 potential lottery picks within the next couple of years over there.
Well, I think that's where some of the intrigue and the growth of the NBA has really been something when it comes to international players, because they're playing in these leagues that are grown men. I mean, we saw it with Luka when he came in. No one quite expected him to be this NBA ready, but he played with all of these older guys. And it's the same thing with LaMelo. People are like, oh, why isn't Wiseman ready yet? I'm like, because the guy played 3 games in college. LaMelo, of course, is more ready and looks better at this point in time because he played with grown men. So I think that's where you're seeing more and more the globalization of the NBA in picks. And I mean, we saw Moody, is that who it or went from Australia? Giddy, sorry. Thank you.
So Giddy's the same thing. I mean, they basically set up Giddy the same way they set up LaMelo. They put him on like one of the poor teams on the, one of the teams he could just go play. You didn't have to worry about it. And there's very, very rare circumstance where you get someone like Luka. Like, I mean, Luka would have been coming off the bench on that Real Madrid team because he was backing up Sergio Llull, who's an NBA player. But Sergio tore his ACL right before the season started, and boom, here you go. You talk about it being a lottery pick. It's really a lottery pick. Like Luka got like very lucky. I mean, he went from being a, somewhere in between like 9 to a 14, 15 pick, jumping to like potential number 1 just because, he won EuroLeague, he won European Championship. Like that's crazy. And that's a hard jump too. I mean, I think the biggest thing is going from like playing 30 games in college, not traveling as much, only traveling like regionally. And then, if you're playing overseas, you're really traveling and you're playing up to like 65 plus games, depending on what league you're in. I mean, that travel, the hotels, the lifestyle, I mean, there's no better place to prepare you for an 82 games plus season in the NBA. You got rookies that come in and they're not ready for it. They get lost in their hotel rooms. They think they're in Chicago. They're actually in, New York or LA or something.
And then add in last year's guys didn't get full training camp or summer.
Yeah. I mean,
which,
they really got
will be big for like the guys this year. I mean, I know Rich is going to summer league. And
I'm going to Sacramento.
There.
Yeah.
I was gonna try and go, but my parents didn't want me going out to Vegas.
What's Sacramento's it's what, 2 to 3 weeks long? It's not that long, right?
No, Sacramento's just 2 days.
Oh, it's only 2 days.
Yeah.
Vegas is the longer one.
Vegas is the real one, yeah.
Okay, when they used to do it in Orlando, I think it was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the Vegas equivalent. Then they have these like weird little satellite ones in like Utah.
Utah.
and
Yeah.
Sacramento.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
excited
that's-
because I can just drive up and see this summer league, see Kaminga for 2 days.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. That is pretty
Spurs
sick.
seem destined to take Şengün here. That feels like a very Spursy pick.
100%.
And they kind of need everything, so why not?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
They don't really have any bigs. I mean, they have Pirtle, but like you're not picking somebody over that.
yeah. I think the Jakob Podol thing is on its way out.
Yeah. The question with Charlotte that might be of intrigue to the Warriors in free agency and trade things is they seem to have kind of a logjam in the guard position now. Rozier or
Devontae
Graham.
Yeah.
Can't have all four of those guys, it seems.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I was thinking about that when they said book night. I was thinking that. I was like, man, that's a lot of guards. I had a PJ Washington in here all week, and